If you're mad that the Cincinnati Bengals did squat at the NFL trade deadline, show it. Get down in the comments section and spam your me's down there for me right now. All right, so the Cincinnati Bengals made one trade at the NFL trade deadline, sending Logan Wilson to the Dallas Cowboys for a 7th-round draft pick. Now, we know exactly the direction now that the Cincinnati Bengals want to go for the rest of the season. They don't want to give up on the season. Okay, that's fine. That's where we're at right now. You know, they've lost 6 out of their last 7 games. The past 2 games, they've given up over 1,000 yards. And on the flip side, they scored 80 points in the last 2 games, and you end up dropping both of those. But, you know, they believe in their guys. They believe in what they have on this team right now. I personally think it's kind of crazy. I think a lot of you guys think it's kind of crazy, but it is what it is. That's where we're at right now. So, you know, the Bengals kind of started off the same way last year as well. Through the first 10 weeks of the season last year, the Bengals were 4-6, played an extra game. Their bye week came a couple weeks later. So you're pretty much in the exact same spot that you were to start off the season last year. The Bengals were 4-8 before winning their last 5 games in a row to finish 9-8 on the season. That obviously was not good enough to make the playoffs last year, and it came down to the final week. But, you know, you weren't able to win enough games early in the season, and then some of those other games decided the Bengals' fate, whether or not they were going to make the playoffs, and ultimately they did not. So let's just say 10 wins is probably a solid benchmark to get you into the playoffs. The Bengals would now have to win 7 out of their last 8 games to actually make that happen. And looking at their remaining schedule right now, I just do not really see a world where, you know, you beat the Ravens twice, you beat the Bills. You know, if you hypothetically say that the Bengals are going to lose one more game out of the rest of this schedule, who do you think it's going to be to? Is it going to be to the Steelers, at the Steelers? How about the Patriots? They're 7-2 right now. The Ravens have Lamar Jackson back. They're getting better and better and better. And by the way, that game in Baltimore is a Thursday night football game. You have to go at Buffalo. You know, the last 3 games of your schedule are going to be the easiest ones. You know, that's kind of that timeline, you know, that we've talked about, that Joe Burrow is expected to be back. But, you know, if the Bengals don't go on a run here and their defense starts getting better, Joe Burrow's not going. I'm just assuming here. I'm totally speculating, but I would assume, it's fair to assume, that Joe Burrow's not going to come back for the rest of the season. Now, Tankathon right now has the Bengals' remaining schedule at 26th in the NFL. That pretty much goes off of, you know, your remaining opponents, what their win record is, but I think it's pretty safe to assume the Ravens are probably going to go on a bit of a run here. And, you know, the Miami Cardinals, Browns, those teams aren't very good, but right now you're not very good either. So I just don't have a lot of confidence in this Bengals team right now to go, you know, 7-1 to end up, having 10 wins on the season and possibly making the playoffs. Who knows? It may end up happening. It's been kind of like this, in years prior before. So we'll see what ends up happening, but I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys. I don't really see a world where the Bengals go 7-1 in their final 8 games. All right, so predict the Bengals' 2025 record. Where do you think they're going to land at the end of the season? Let me know what you guys think. Get your predictions in down at the pinned comment of today's video. Predict the Bengals' record for the rest of the 2025 season. All right, so up next, we are going to break down some NFL free agents that the Bengals should at least consider signing, bringing in for a visit, something like that. You know, as of filming this video, they still need to fill that one spot that Logan Wilson had on the roster. But even if they, do that some other type of way, we always hear them talking about they're, constantly, evaluating everyone. So you never know what could end up happening. They could release some guys, bring some guys in. They've been signing guys off the practice squad, seems like, to, fill those roster spots there. But, anything can happen here. So we're going to talk about that here on the rest of today's show. The first free agent out there right now that is really being talked about a lot is Asante Samuel. And actually, right before we ended up filming this video here, it was reported that he's going to be visiting with the Carolina Panthers. So he's going to be taking a couple visits here, and we'll see if the Bengals get in on that mix. 26-year-old cornerback here. Now, he did undergo a spinal fusion surgery back in April, and he was cleared to play for football activities, according to Jeremy Fowler. That article was written just 2 days ago. But last season, he only played in 4 games. He was calling that injury kind of like a stinger to both of his shoulders. Also added that he's been dealing with that since he was born, so it's nothing new for him there. But, former second-round pick back in 2021. Jeremy Fowler also reported, like I said, that he's going to be taking visits as soon as this week. The Panthers are the first team on that list. I think the Bengals should at least try to bring him in for a visit, maybe even a workout, and just kind of see how he's moving and see how he's doing. All right, so name a free agent you guys think the Bengals should sign here. There's definitely some spots on this team that you could at least try to get better at, considering you didn't try anything at the NFL trade deadline. So let me know. Get that player name down in the comments section of today's video. All right, we'll come back to 4 more free agents here in just a second, but this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with PrizePicks, and the weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning that you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. You want more than on Josh Allen passing yards, rush yards, and touchdowns. Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on PrizePicks. This right here is a very good example of what a stack looks like. You see Brock Bowers, 2 different stat projections there, going with a more than on reception or receiving yards for him and more than on receptions for this Thursday night game against the Broncos. Also going with Bo Nix, more than for him on passing yards at 215.5. When I play PrizePicks, guys, this is my favorite thing about PrizePicks. How you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose the flex play where you get paid even if one of your picks misses. So, usually I'll have a couple different stat projections that I really do like, and I think those are, definitely good. But then there's another one that might be a coin flip. If you feel that way about one of your stat projections, use the flex play. But if you want bigger payouts, go with the power play. No matter how you play, PrizePicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. So download the PrizePicks app today and use promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That link's down in the comment section and the description of today's video. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, so our next free agent that a lot of people are talking about right now. By the way, we're going very defensive heavy on this one here because that's what the Bengals really do need some help at right now. Kendall Fuller, cornerback, 30 years old still right now. So, a lot of these guys, these remaining guys, Asante Samuel is going to be the youngest one that we have on this list here. But, he played in 11 games for the Dolphins last year where he missed, 4 games in total due to 2 separate concussions. The second one, by the way, he actually had to miss 3 games for those. So there might, be some concussion types of worries there. He was released by the Dolphins back in February, picked up by the Lions on their practice squad back on October 14th, but then was released on October 27th. So, he's at least probably in good shape because, as recently as October 27th, just last week or so, about 10 days or so here, he's been on the practice squad. So, we'll see. He's still in shape, I would assume here. If the Bengals want some help at that cornerback spot, Kendall Fuller might be another name they should consider. All right, another name that me and a lot of other people are very surprised still unsigned right now is safety Justin Simmons. Obviously, we know right now the Bengals have just a lot of issues at that safety spot. Particularly missed tackles have been a very big issue with Jordan Battle here, and Justin Simmons, as early as last year, was still playing at a decent level, at that safety spot. So if you want to bring another guy in who is a veteran, I think Justin Simmons could be a guy. Considering that he's not signed, still right now, a lot of these guys, might even be on the cheaper side of things if you wanted to go that route. But if you wanted to add some veteran presence to that secondary, that's, another name that you could definitely add. To help us get to 23,000 subscribers here on Bengals Breakdown, we are 365 away. Help me out, hit that sub button, and stay up to date on all things Bengals news. We will continue to be live for every single Bengals game, the good, the bad, the ugly, and we'll probably end up doing some draft coverage here sooner rather than later. So hit that sub button and join us here on Bengals Breakdown. All right, the fourth name going to the defensive line now, and this one might be a little bit controversial as it sits right now. How about Christian Wilkins? You remember, he signed a massive contract with the Raiders back in 2024. 4 years, $110 million, $84 million guaranteed. Now, there are some issues here. In week 5 last year, he suffered a foot injury, and he ended up needing surgery on that, and he ended up being out for the season. Then in July, he was placed on the Raiders' PUP list ahead of training camp, and then he was cut about a week later. So, he ended up filing a grievance with the NFLPA, and it's just been a complete mess here recently for Christian Wilkins. Allegedly, he was making some teammates feel kind of uncomfortable. There was an unnamed teammate that filed a complaint with the Raiders' HR department, and, it's just not been great for Christian Wilkins since then. But look, at the end of the day, Christian Wilkins is a dog, and he could help this Bengals team, especially in the run game. And you look at those sack numbers too, as recently as 2023, he can help you out in pass rush, and he can help you out in the run game as well. The Bengals, by the way, would not have to pick up the remaining contract. It would just be straight up a new contract for Christian Wilkins. But the big problem is too, we don't even know if Christian Wilkins is healthy right now. So, that is another issue that you do have to consider. But Christian Wilkins, a big-time name on the defensive line, he is still out there. And if he is healthy, I think he definitely could help this Bengals defense. All right, the last free agent here is linebacker Eric Kendricks, another guy that you could bring in to be, a veteran to help those, rookies at that linebacker spot. He was most recently playing with the Cowboys last season where, I watched him play a lot as the, producer of the Cowboys report last year, and I thought he played okay, racked up a lot of tackles, that's for damn sure. I also believe he had like 2 interceptions last year as well, so does some okay stuff in pass coverage, but, you kind of just had Eric Kendricks and Logan Wilson. You ended up trading him away. Now, I will say this, too. Logan Wilson did want to play more, and he's also a few years younger than Eric Kendrick is right now. So, maybe, you could bring him in as a cheap option to fill that Logan Wilson role, play about 20-ish snaps a game. That's what Logan Wilson kind of, his snap share kind of went down to there. I don't know if he would necessarily be up for playing special teams, at his age right now. But, like I said, he could provide some veteran leadership along with Oren Burks in that linebacker room.